Hello, everyone. I am back with part two of my dissection of Whoopi Goldberg's comments. Now, unless you've been living up under a rock, then you know the comments that I'm speaking of, where Whoopi Goldberg on The View spoke about the Holocaust and she said it wasn't about race, it was about man's inhumanity to man. Okay. So in part one, I played what she said and her apologies for it, as well as addressed her 2 week suspension from The View by ABC News. Then I went a little deeper, showing the definitions of race, Jews/Jewish people, and addressed the idea of race being a social construct. And so, what I wanted from that was feedback, and particularly feedback from Jewish people. Although I did say anyone could comment or chime in as long as they were being respectful. Now, there's a link in that video placed by YouTube referencing context, and it talks about the Holocaust. I did read it, I read it all. You can go over to that video too. It's entitled Whoopi Goldberg Says the Holocaust Wasn't About Race. It's my very first video, and I still believe there's a conversation that needs to be had. So I'll be addressing that in this video. All right, so for those of you who don't know, Whoopi Goldberg appeared on Stephen Colbert's The Late Show, where he asked her about her comments that she had made earlier that day on The View. So, to put this in context, this particular episode was recorded on that day. I'm not sure when it aired. I think it may have aired the day after. I'm not sure. But what I can say is this particular episode of The Late Show with Whoopi Goldberg was recorded on the same day that the conversation about Whoopi Goldberg discussing the Holocaust came about. Okay, so reading directly from theblaze.com, it says, what are the details? Colbert right away brought up Goldberg's comments from earlier in the day, and she was more than willing to explain herself. Whoopi says, it upset a lot of people, which was never, ever my intention, Goldberg said, adding that, I feel being black, when we talk about race, it's a very different thing to me. So I said that I felt that the Holocaust wasn't about race, and people got very angry and still are angry. I mean, I'm getting mail from folks and very real anger because people feel very differently. But I thought it was a salient discussion because as a black person, I think of race as being something that I can see. So I see you and I know what race you are, Whoopi Goldberg said. And after rehashing that she felt the Holocaust instead was about man's inhumanity to man, Goldberg recounted that Jewish people disagreed with her. Quote, they said, no, we are a race. And I understand. I understand. I felt differently. I respect everything everyone is saying to me. I don't want to fake apologize. I was very upset that people misunderstood what I was saying, she continued. And because of it, they're saying that I'm anti Semitic and that I'm denying the Holocaust and all these other things, which would never occur to me. I thought we were having a discussion about race, which everyone, I think, is having. Colbert, calling himself the white guy in the conversation and a non Jew, added, it seemed to me that whiteness is a construct created by colonial powers during the beginning of the colonial imperialist era in order to exploit other people, and that they could apply it to all different kinds of people. That idea of race. And the American experience tends to be based on skin. Goldberg agreed. Yes, and so that's what race means to me. She then went on to say, when you think about being a racist, I was saying you can't call the Holocaust racism. This was evil. This wasn't based on skin. You couldn't tell who was Jewish. The Nazis had to delve deeply to figure it out. Colbert appeared to agree, adding that when the Nazis figured out who was Jewish, they made Jews wear yellow stars on their clothing to visually distinguish them from non Jews. My point is, The Nazis had to do the work, Goldberg said before adding an anecdote. If the Klan is coming down the street and I'm standing with a Jewish friend, I'm going to run. But if my friend decides not to run, they'll get passed by most times because you can't tell who's Jewish. And so that's what I was trying to explain. And I understand that not everybody sees it that way. And I did a lot of harm, I guess, to myself and people. Decided I was all these things and all these other things. I'm actually not. And I'm incredibly torn up about being told these things about myself. And I get it. Folks are angry. I accept that. And I did it to myself. This was my thought process, and I will work hard not to think that way again. Next, when Colbert asked Goldberg if she now understood that the Nazis indeed saw the Holocaust as a racial issue, she replied that the Nazis lied. They had issues with ethnicity, not with race, because most of the Nazis were white people, and most of the people they were attacking were white people. So to me, I'm thinking, how can you say it's about race if you're fighting each other? Goldberg added that one of her concerns is explaining it to the children in a way that makes sense. I said this wasn't racial. This was about white on white. And everybody said, no, 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 it was racial. And that's what this all came from. So once again, don't write me anymore. I know how you feel, okay? I already know. I get it. And I'm going to take your word for it and never bring it up again. Now, the first thing that I want to address is that Whoopi said that people were saying that she's anti Semitic and that she was denying the Holocaust, which is the furthest from the truth. I wish people would stop being so dishonest and stop lying about what she said. What she said was the Holocaust wasn't about race. Again, she said it wasn't about race. That statement alone disproves the claim that she's a Holocaust denier. The next thing that I wanted to address in this clip is the scenario that Whoopi gave to Stephen Colbert about if she and a Jewish friend were walking down the street together and they saw a Klansman, that of course, if she saw a Klansman, she would run the other way because visibly she is black. You can tell that she is black. Now, her Jewish friend may or may not run. They definitely would not have to run. The only way that they would be identified as Jewish is if they had their yellow star on them, or if they had a star necklace or something on them that signified that they were Jewish. But here's the thing, those things can be taken off, those things can be removed. Her black skin, my black skin, I can't take this off. I wear this every day. And so I understand where she was coming from because even if you research the Holocaust, there were people that were hiding in plain sight specifically because if you were not wearing the star, if they had not found you and put the star on you to be able to identify that you were Jewish with the yellow star, then you were absolutely able to blend in and hide in plain sight. And this was because to most people walking down the street, you were just a person. You were not a Jew, they couldn't tell. If you didn't have the star on you, if you didn't have anything signifying that you were Jewish, to anyone walking down the street, you were just a regular person. They couldn't tell. And no, you may not have had blonde hair and blue eyes, but guess what? Neither did Hitler. Now, one last thing I wanted to address about Whoopi's conversation with Stephen Colbert is when Stephen Colbert brought up the fact that, well, didn't the Nazis consider the Jews to be a different race? And then she said, well, the Nazis lied. And to this, I want to say she's absolutely right. The Nazis did lie. They lied to the Jews. They lied to everyone else and said that the Jews were a race. They were being discriminatory against the Jews, and they needed to find a lie to justify their discrimination against those people. They also needed to justify the fact that they were creating laws that made their discrimination legal. Okay, sound familiar? America and Jim Crow. So when she said they lied, she's absolutely right. They were discriminating against a group of people. They were discriminating against a religion. They were discriminating against an ethnic group. But they were not discriminating against a race. Regardless of how Hitler or the Nazis wanted to define race, what they said doesn't make it so. Just because Hitler said that Jewish is a race, why are we going off of what this horrible person describes race to be? It's not true. And to add a little more context to what I am saying, there's that word again, context for you, YouTube. To add context to what I am saying, why would we listen to this person that decided to massacre an entire group of people and let his word reign true about why he decided to massacre this group of people? If that's the case, then why not listen to everything else he said? Okay, so we're going to take his definition of race to be true. We're going to take the fact that he felt like he was superior to them to be true. You want to take the fact that he felt like it was okay to discriminate against them to be true. Again, you see what kind of rabbit hole you go down when you take the words of a bigot like Adolf Hitler and say, well, because they considered these people to be a race, that made it true. No, it does not. It does not make it so. All right, so now I'm going to move on to the next clip. And in this clip, we have CNN's Don Lemon, and he is speaking with Jonathan Greenblatt about this particular issue with Whoopi Goldberg, and they addressed the suspension. Now, this is the same person that went on The View to have the discussion with Whoopi the day after she made her comments. And this is also the same person that she mentioned in her apology tweet that I showed in my first video. So again, Mr. Greenblatt is the Anti Defamation League CEO, and he is also Jewish. So let's listen to what he has to say in his interview with Don Lemon. And just for reference, I will be stopping this interview frequently because there are some things that I've already discussed, but I will be giving my commentary in between the dialogue that they're having.
Okay, this is our breaking news tonight. Whoopi Goldberg suspended from The View for 2 weeks. That's according to ABC News. The president of ABC News saying that she asked Whoopi to reflect and learn about the impact of her comments she made saying that the Holocaust isn't about race. Whoopi did appear on The View today and made this apology. Here it is.
I said something that I feel a responsibility for not leaving unexamined because my words upset so many people, which was never my intention. And I understand why now. And for that, I am deeply, deeply grateful because the information I got was really helpful and helped me understand some different things. And while discussing how a Tennessee school board unanimously voted to remove a graphic novel about the Holocaust, I said that the Holocaust wasn't about race, and it was instead about man's inhumanity to man. But it is indeed about race, because Hitler and the Nazis considered Jews to be an inferior race. Now, words matter, and mine are no exception. I regret my comments, as I said, and I stand corrected. I also stand with the Jewish people, as they know, and y'all know, because I've always done that.
So after her apology, she and the other hosts of The View spoke with Jonathan Greenblatt. Jonathan is the CEO and National Director of the Anti-Defamation League, and he joins me now. I watched it today. Jonathan, thank you for joining us, and I appreciate you coming on. Let's have this conversation. First of all, I have to ask you about the news now, the breaking news. ABC News suspending Whoopi for 2 weeks. What do you think of that decision?
Well, look, Whoopi Goldberg is literally one of the most visible women in television. The View is watched by millions and millions of people every single day. And her comments did cause tremendous confusion and hurt, particularly in a Jewish community, which, think about it, Don, it's less than a week after Holocaust Remembrance Day. It's but, 10 days since a rash of anti-Semitic flyering across the country. It's 2 weeks after the hostage taking in Texas. It's 6 months after Jews were beaten in broad daylight by, anti-Israel activists. There are a lot of reasons why the Jewish community is concerned. But for me, she apologized last night online, and then she did so again this morning. And I accept her apology. I know she's been a friend of the Jewish community all throughout her career, and I respect that and appreciate it. I can't comment on ABC News' internal process, but what I will say is that I hope Whoopi can use the next 2 weeks for a process of introspection and learning, right? I don't think Holocaust Remembrance Day should be one day of the year. We can learn about the Holocaust 365 days, just like today is the first day of Black History Month, Don, but I don't think we should confine our thinking about Black history to just 28 days. So let's hope that she can use this time, use this opportunity, and use her amazing platform to educate herself and to share what she learns with her audience and with the country at large. Visit the Holocaust Museum, meet with survivors, work with the ADL. There are lots of ways Whoopi can make a huge difference, and I hope she'll do that.
Does intent matter? I mean, words matter, of course, but does intent matter, Jonathan, especially in this situation?
Well, look, of course intent matters. I mean, it's really important that people say what they mean and they mean what they say. And so again, I think when she was talking yesterday about these issues, and I think she really, again, created a kind of confusion and hurt, because the Holocaust was absolutely about race. It was a racialized anti-Semitism, Don. And again, that might not fit with the way that some people think about race, the way all of us as Americans have to confront it in this country, in this time, when Black Americans are still dealing with the legacy of Jim Crow and enslavement and systemic oppression. And yet, race is a social construct, and it shows up differently in different societies. And so again, if we look back to Germany, the Nazis believed that they were the master race and Jews were a subhuman race.
Now, I want to stop really quickly right here and reiterate what he just said. He said the Nazis believed that the Jews were a subhuman race. Not that they knew for a fact, not that it was a fact, but they believed it. And we already discussed why they decided to believe this, to justify their discrimination. Let's keep going.
And they
Jews are the
literally
inferior race.
waged
That's
a war.
what they believed, yeah.
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 And they waged a war of extermination against the Jewish people because of this belief in race. That's undeniable. It's what happened.
I want to get through a lot here, and I don't want to be rude, I'm not, but I just want to get through, like I said, I have a lot of questions to ask you, because I do think that this is a teachable moment, right? You said you stand in support of Whoopi because of her history, but you don't support the words the way she said it, and that's understand. I think there can be nuance there. So let's start there. We spoke with you last night. This was after Whoopi issued the statement, the apology. But before her previously taped interview with Stephen Colbert, before that aired, I want to play just part of that. So watch this, Jonathan.
Okay, at this point in the interview, Don Lemon is going to play a clip of Whoopi Goldberg on the Stephen Colbert show, and she's going to play the part where she gave Stephen Colbert the example of if she was walking down the street with a Jewish friend and the Klansmen were coming. Now, I already spoke about that when I read the article from theblaze.com, so we're going to go ahead and continue.
So Colbert did push back on her, bringing up that Nazis marked Jews with yellow stars so that they could easily be recognized. Now, if you look at your screen, you can see a photo. This is from the 1940s. It shows just that. It was taken in the Lodz ghetto in Poland, right? How dangerous is the perspective that if you can't see someone's race on the outside, then they are safe from persecution? Do you think that that's dangerous?
We know that's dangerous, and it's flat out wrong. So a few things. The Nazi Nuremberg laws that regarded Jews as subhuman were based in part on the way that the laws about race existed in this country. that one drop of blood made a person Jewish, like they say one drop of blood made a person African American or black in this country.
Okay, so I want to pause here for a second because I want to address the question that Don Lemon asked Mr. Greenblatt when he said, how dangerous is the perspective that if you can't see someone's race on the outside, then they are safe from persecution? And then Mr. Greenblatt goes on to answer and say, it's very dangerous. And I want to dissect that because I want to bring up our country's history when in the United States, at the time where Jim Crow laws were running amok throughout the country, there were certain individuals that were black and that were very fair skinned. Either they were very light black people or they were actually biracial black people, and you could not tell that they were black. They were actually white passing. That's what they called them. You couldn't tell that they had the drop of black blood that we're going to address after this, but you couldn't tell that they had that because they were light and they were white passing. That literally protected them from persecution. So I'm not sure where Mr. Greenblatt is coming from with this angle, but I know, and he knows, and Don Lemon knows that back in those days, if you had lighter skin and you could not tell the race of that person because they were white passing, then it absolutely did protect them from the discrimination. It protected them from the lynchings. It protected them from the beatings. Yes, it did. And another thing that I want to address very quickly is that Mr. Greenblatt just said one drop of blood made a person Jewish. There is no Jewish blood. There is no drop of blood that made a person Jewish because there is no blood that made a person Jewish. Jewish is a person that followed Judaism. It has nothing to do with there being a drop of Jewish blood in them, as he tried to compare it to being someone who had a drop of black blood in them. It's not the same. Let's continue.
So indeed, you can't see necessarily who is black or Jewish. This is a social construct. And let me say something else, Don. Let's dispel the myth that all Jews are white. There are millions of Jews of color. Jews who are black and who are brown, who are Asian, Jews of all hues. So just because someone presents as white or black doesn't mean you know their identity.
He is absolutely right in this sense. There are Jews of all races. There are Jews that are white. There are Jews that are black. There are Jews that are Hispanic. That's exactly why I don't understand why he keeps saying that Jewish is a race. Let's continue.
And so I really think we just need to dispel this myth, that the Holocaust was white on white crime. Give me a break. This was a racist, horrific act of brutality. And if we think about those the KKK people, Don, who in her scenario would be chasing her down the street, let me tell you, they would chase her and me because anti-Semitism is at the beating heart of white supremacy.
And I have to call his bluff again. They would not chase her and him. His picture is on the screen. This is a white man. It doesn't matter his nationality, whether he's German or Polish or Swiss. It doesn't matter. Looking at this man on your screen, there is no way to tell whether he is Jewish or not. There's no way to tell that. Let's continue.
Blacks and Jews, we have so much in common, particularly that we have faced bigotry through the ages. And again, let's hope, Don, that through this moment we can find ways to work together to face the hate that threatens all of us.
Let me ask you, because as I am honestly, and this is in real time, as I am interviewing you, I have people texting me, Jewish friends texting me. One of them is saying, censorship at its finest. I understood what she was trying to say. It was clumsy, but I don't think it was malevolent. What do you say to that?
Well, I don't know who your friend is, and I don't know exactly what the context of the tweet is, but let me just say this. We sometimes have people in public places who can say clumsy things about race or faith or gender. I don't believe in cancel culture. I like the phrase that my friend Nick Cannon uses. We need counsel culture. We shouldn't cancel Whoopi because she made a mistake, even if she made the mistake again on Colbert. You know, in the Jewish faith, Don, we have a concept called shuvah.
Okay, notice what he said here. He said in the Jewish faith. He did not say in the Jewish race. Very interesting. Let's continue.
And shuvah means redemption. It means all of us have the power to admit when we do wrong and to commit to doing better. I heard Whoopi say that she's committed to doing better. I accept that apology with the sincerity with which she delivered it. Again, to my face this morning on The View. And I'm committed, ADL is committed to work with her and to work with others who really want to use this as a teachable moment.
You know, I want to. This whole conversation, right, started with the book Mouse, right? The Pulitzer Prize winning book Mouse, and it just about what people don't know about anti-Semitism. And Jonathan, there was a poll that most people, well, I shouldn't say most people, many people have no idea what the term anti-Semitism means in this country. So we need a lot of educating in this country.
We do.
What's the parting words here when people say, well, if you ask, you know, a lot of people on the street, you know, do you believe anti-Semitism exists? What is anti-Semitic? And so on. Are Jewish people, is it a race, or is it Judaism or religion or race, what have you? I think many people would have no idea. So what do we do in this? What do we do now from here?
Look, anti-Semitism, look, we're never going to beat anti-Semitism or hate of any kind by just arresting people or litigating. We need to change hearts and minds. It starts with education, right? It's the oldest hatred, and it's this conspiracy theory, Don, that's lasted for thousands of years and led to tremendous suffering for Jewish people and death, you know, over time, whether in Europe or the Middle East. When you demonize and delegitimize Jewish people or the Jewish state, you create the sparks for violence and hate, and that's just got to stop. The reality is Jews are less than 2% of the U.S. population, Don, and we're nearly 60% of the victims of faith-related hate crimes.
And I have to point out again, notice he said faith related hate crimes and not race related hate crimes. Let's continue.
Right.
The numbers are astonishing, what we've seen, and just we're about 115% increase over the last 5 years. Jews have been targeted in our synagogues and our supermarkets and the places where we live. So anti-Semitism is a real issue for our community.
All right, guys, that was the end of the CNN interview with Don Lemon and Mr. Jonathan Greenblatt. So let me know what you think. What did you think about Whoopi Goldberg's comments on the Stephen Colbert Show? And also, what did you think about the conversation on CNN with Don Lemon and John Greenblatt? I really do think this is a conversation that is important, and it's a conversation that we need to have. We're trying to start a conversation. We're trying to understand where people are coming from. Now, like I said in my first video, if you have not watched it, go and do so. But like I said, this is not a place for you to be disrespectful. This is not a place for you to be discriminatory. I will not tolerate that, and all comments like that will be removed. But I really do want to spark a conversation. There are already conversations going about this, and I want more of a conversation on it on this platform. So let me know what you think. And I can't stress this enough. Please be respectful. Please be respectful if you leave a comment, if you are able to leave a comment. I do not tolerate hate on this platform. I do not tolerate discrimination, racism, anti Semitism. It will not be tolerated over here. So go ahead, leave your comment. Let's start a conversation. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch up with you in the next video.